Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I said it again. Good afternoon, everybody. Is this not working too? It is. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the Rotary Club of Brentwood. Supposed to be excited. It's June. It's summer. It's beautiful. My name's Jennifer Bourne. I'm your fearless leader for 3 more Fridays, and then it's all you, my friend, right there. Say it. What? Oh, we have a new podium. Did you guys see this? Thank you to the morning club. They broke our podium, but they got us a new one. So yay. All right. I don't see Stephen Hammers here today. Is there a Stephen Hammers in the room? Okay. All right. Who wants to lead our inspirational message for today? Larry, will you come lead us in prayer? Please. Somebody come lead us in prayer. Stephen Hammers was supposed to be here to lead us in prayer, but we're going to have Larry do it because he just happens to sit right there and he got my eyeball first. Oh, Linus will do it. Pledge and 4-way test will be led by Jared Tanksley.
I fixed it. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessing of today, the blessing of fellowship, the gorgeous day outside. We're so thankful to be residents of this area, so thankful to have a club to come to, lunch to enjoy, good times to have. I know many in the room have intentions and are suffering for various reasons, either personally or have extended family members that are suffering. Please put your arms around them and show them your grace as you always do. Thank you, Father, for the gift of life. And it's in your name I pray. Amen.
Flag, United States. Four-way test. I think we think like and say. Anyway, number 1. Number 2. Third. Fourth.
We hope so.
While we're still standing, today is Betsy Crossley's birthday. She made the mistake of showing up, so let's sing happy birthday to her. You ready? Yay! All right. Jennifer Shepard, our club secretary, will introduce guests and visiting Rotarian.
Hey, everybody. You never know from week to week. Last week, I think I had 15 or 20 visiting guests to introduce, and today I've got 2. The familiar face, where'd he go? Chuck, where are you sitting? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hey, Chuck. Chuck's here again. So good to see you. And thank you, Kip, for dragging him here. Yeah. And for matching the bow tie to Bob Thompson. We got the bow tie twins going on. And Sean Simons is a guest of our speaker.
Sort of, kind of. This is Sean Simons, and Sean is here not just for me. He also grew up with our speaker today and myself. Sean leads the office of Frederick and Clark here in Brentwood, lifelong Brentwood resident, great fellow, and maybe you might even hear a story about him a little later. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. That's it.
All right, we just have a few announcements today. Kicking us off is going to be Larry, who just put food in his mouth, to talk about the golf tournament.
All right, good afternoon, and a quick update on the golf tournament. Or should I say a quick update on our fundraiser. I want to make sure something. Somebody said something to me last week that kind of bothered me. They said, all we do is talk about the golf tournament. I said, well, The golf tournament is just what helps us raise the money. It's a fundraiser that we talk about. That we talk about raising money, and we use the golf tournament to do that. But I just want to make sure everybody understands it. This is not talking about a golf tournament. It's talking about our fundraiser, a major fundraiser for the year. And we happen to use the golf tournament in order to do that. So in this past week, we've had a pretty good week. We raised $18,000 in sponsorships, thanks to Marie Swinford, who sold $350, Matt McCall, who sold $750, Tucker Day, who sold $1,200, and last but not least, and a big round of applause for $6,500, Tom Carr. So just so you can relate as to how we've done year to date, I'm going to give you the top 5 producers year to date, and hold your applause to the end, please. Number 1, Jane Covington, $10,000. Michael Kaplan, $6,700. Ray Little, $5,500. Jeff Talley, $5,000. Curry Andrews, $3,650. And Rodney Lund, $3,600. Our top 6 producers. Thank you. And a lot of those are not finished. I understand that. We have 22 outstanding sponsorships we sold last year that are still outstanding. So that means somebody in this room or somebody's listening or whatever owns that sponsorship. Let's get those in, please. 22 of those are still outstanding. We've got 86 days until our tournament. We got plenty of time, but let's get on those 22. And lastly, on the tables, I put folders today. If you do not have a folder, everybody should have one, but if you missed the meeting where we gave those out, grab a folder before you leave. It's got all the information you need about the golf tournament. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
He forgot about Tom Carr, who is right in the middle of that pack in the top 5. So good job. Next week and the next 2 weeks, we are going to be celebrating all of the golf tournament earnings that go into the BRCCF. We're giving it away. So these are some of the best meetings we host every year. So if you guys are here, please make it. Next week is scholarships. So we're giving out the scholarships. And then the following week is community grants. And this year we had 26 community grants recipients. So it's going to be full, and it's going to be great. So if you guys are here, please come. A couple other announcements. On June 13th is the social at my house. So we did ask for RSVPs this year. That's new. We're just trying something different. So if you are able to RSVP, please do. But if the day of you're like, oh, I think I can make it, just show up. We are just trying something new. We want you to be there. So if you are here and would like to come, please come. If you want lobster, yes, you have to bring your own lobster. It is a shrimp and chicken boil. We'll have some sausage too. And then on June 25th, you also got an invitation for that. We are going to be installing our next president, Jennifer Ruane. So if you guys are here and in town, the Marriott, it is free for the member. You only pay for your guest. So take advantage of your dues and come to that as well. It's going to be a great time. So please don't miss that either. All right, next up, we have Happy Bucks. Kip Dotson will be leading us today in Happy Bucks.
Okay, I'm going to start out happiness here. We all know our good friend Chuck Blackburn left one of a very long-standing member. He did resign from our club, but he's reapplied. So he is submitted and sponsored. So I'm super happy about that. Any other people happy?
Let me tell him why I'm happy. He wouldn't give me the microphone. I'm new. I joined in March, and I've got a lot to learn, but it didn't take me long to learn that when you celebrate your wedding anniversary, you get real happy for the number of years you've been married. So Wednesday, June 3rd, was my 31st anniversary. And I tossed in an extra $5 for a total of 36 because we dated for 5 years before we got married.
I'm very happy to be here with Chuck. Said he'd show up today if I showed up in a bow tie. So here we are, the twins. We're going to need some help out in front. If anybody would like to be engaged and show up about 11:30 on a continuous basis for us, we could really use the help. Just make sure everybody gets in and signed in. It's easy. It's a great way to meet, especially for the younger, newer people. Great way to meet a lot of the members of the club. So if you can help, see me.
Who else is happy? Who else is happy? Come on now. Larry's happy.
You hear about Auburn football all the time. Did you know that we won the national NCAA golf championship this past week? Auburn Tigers, national champions. Did you know that today at 7 o'clock we play in the sub-regional of the NCAA baseball tournament, the Final Eight? Anyway, War Eagle, thank you.
One of those other schools. Who else is happy? Who else is happy? Of course. Need to retaliate.
You know, dollar. So I was going to say, Larry, Toddy, and the Ole Miss Rebels going to sweep the Auburn Tigers. So there you go.
All right. Who else is happy? Oh.
Yesterday was the first time I was able to go through Costco under my own power without having to use the motorized cart. So I'm very happy to be on the mend. Things are looking up all the time and back to physical therapy. Thanks a lot.
Yay. Anyone else? Back to you, Madam President.
All right. Next up, Devin is going to come up and introduce our speaker for today.
It is a pleasure to introduce our speaker today. One of the valuable parts when you do an introduction is usually you don't have to do much. You just ask the speaker, would you give me a bio? And they give you a bio and you just read it. So Brian said, no, don't worry about it. I'll do it. And I said, okay, I'm in charge then. So yeah, easily to my access is Brian's 11th grade picture from the Brentwood High School annual. I figured that was appropriate. And do we have the other one? Or just that one? It doesn't matter. I also picked out a picture from the Brentwood High School basketball team around the same era, but it's on the bottom. There you go. Brian is the one in the middle. So we're going to learn a little bit about him for about a minute, and then I'm going to hand it over to him for much more entertaining content. Before I start, though, I do want to point something out, and I can only do this because Brian and I, and then my guest Sean, all graduated high school together. Something you're going to learn about Brian in a minute is that amongst the many facets of his career, he's also been a college professor, and one of his students is one of our members. So I'm going to put a little bit of a date on him by that, but I'd learned that today. Matt McCall actually had Brian as a professor. So our speaker, as I've mentioned, is Brian Masterson. Brian is the partner in charge of the Nashville office of FTB Gibbons. So those of you who've been around a while, that's Frost Brown Todd, recently added Gibbons and changed the name. He is one of the most impressive folks that we will hear from this year. So I'm going to give you professional first. He is a tax and transactional attorney concentrating his practice on tax planning and controversies, M&A, joint ventures. He advises clients through financial and tax due diligence, pre-closing, post-closing adjustment. His clients include very closely held companies, family offices, commercial and residential real estate developers, and early stage venture companies. Now, that might put you to sleep after you've eaten a baked potato. Luckily, he's not going to talk too much about that. But in addition to practicing law, he's taught tax courses, as I mentioned, as a full-time faculty member for several years. He is currently an adjunct faculty member at the University of Michigan Law School. He's also done the same at Georgetown University Law School. And by the way, this is while he maintains a practice and raises a family here in Nashville. And just as a bonus, he's also a former practicing CPA. I told you he was impressive. So you're probably thinking, man, this guy's really smart, right? It's going to be great content. I can't vouch for that, but we'll hope. He happens to be a University of North Carolina School of Law graduate, where he graduated with honors. He was the publication editor for the UNC Law Review while he was there. He also received his LLM in taxation. So that's like a master's degree in law. So he has both his Doctor of Jurisprudence in Law and his master's in law. He received that from Georgetown University. He also happens to be a graduate of our own David Lipscomb University here in Nashville, where during his time there, he played basketball for the great Don Meyer. And this was in the mid-90s when they were killing it in the NAIA, and were probably a lot of the reason Lipscomb ended up going to a 1A classification. We'll at least give him some credit for that, whether he takes it or not. He's also served as the chair of accounting, finance, and the economics department for Lipscomb University. If we pivot away from professional life a little bit, it's worth noting not only his time at Lipscomb back in the 90s, but also that he is a graduate of our own Brentwood High School here down the road, where he was the big man for the Bruins for 3 straight years. Not necessarily the fastest guy on the court, but I wasn't on the court, so I can't say too much. But he also, if we just really want to throw on the accolades, graduated in the top 10% of his high school graduating class. No small feat, if you know much about Brentwood High School. He happens to still be a Brentwood resident, where he's raised his family. He's married to his lovely and equally impressive wife, if you happen to know her, Jennifer, and is the father of 3 adult children, all with their own substantial accomplishments. If you would, please welcome Brentwood's son, a high school classmate of mine, and someone who has actually provided me sound legal advice, Brian Masterson.
I think next time I speak, I'm going to have Devin come introduce me. That was fabulous. It made me a little embarrassed, quite frankly. When you were talking about fundraisers for the golf tournament, one of my fondest memories, and I occasionally see it, I just don't see it as much through the email, but I'll be driving by Old North Side, so Brentwood Middle, and what I recall is a child in elementary school going with my family to the pancake breakfast. You guys still do the pancake breakfast? Yeah. And the coolest thing about it was some years, if the weather was bad, it was inside the old commons area. You had the griddles. And as a kid, I thought this is fabulous. It's all you can eat pancakes. And I was just going back time after time after time. I loved it. Then there were some years where it was really nice outside. And for whatever reason, I thought the griddles were outside, maybe where the bus lane was. So at any rate, I remember doing that as a kid, and it was a whole lot of fun. So anyway, it's great to be here. As Devin said, I do have a lot of history here. We were just talking about the Civitan Club earlier, and things that as a kid I didn't realize until today. The Civitan ballpark field was actually part of Civitan Club, and I was like, oh, well, that's for us. It was just we got a game at Civitan, and that's where we're going to go. So it's just interesting seeing things now through adult eyes that were a little bit different when you were a kid. But great place to grow up. And yes, Chuck. Up higher. There we go. Is that better? Hold on. Let's see if it'll. Hold on. Let's see.
Did you just during your best? I'll take it. Yeah.
Is that better? Can you hear it now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are going to talk about state legislative developments. I'll stay closer to the mic. We're going to talk about state legislative developments. And as I was preparing for this, it's one of the things that I think I take for granted to a degree, and maybe here we all take it for granted, and that is state government and then local government in Tennessee, and then where we live here. And I include local government being Metro Nashville and Brentwood, Williamson County. What's fascinating about it is when I travel, I take for granted the fact that we are a growing economic place where people, for the most part, at a government level, work together. There are differences between, you've got state difference between the state and Metro Nashville, and they're working that out, and that's going to continue to be an issue. And we're about to see that with the airport, with some litigation that will probably take place there. But for the most part, we get it right. So I would happen to be in Newark, New Jersey for 2 days this week. Have not spent a whole lot of time in New Jersey. I'm not spending time in Newark itself. And what it reminded me of was, wow, there's a huge difference between Newark and Nashville in Middle Tennessee. And I was just shocked at how stark the difference was. I also travel a fair amount to Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville and Nashville 40 years ago were neck and neck, and one could have even argued at the time that Louisville may have been ahead. If somebody here is from Louisville, don't take this as offense. A lot of my colleagues are in Louisville. Louisville's not anywhere near where we are. And part of that reason is what we have at the state level and then what we have at the local level. So what I'm about to talk about, a lot of it has to do with how to make the state better. And so I'm hopefully going to hit through some things that see that, or that you guys will see that. And not every part of the country, not even you go to Louisville, Birmingham, arguably is getting a little bit better, but it's something that if you stay here in Nashville and this is where you are most of the time, you can take that for granted, but it is not something that we should take for granted. Let me run through some slides. Devin kind of covered my background. That's who I am. I'm a tax guy, M&A guy. I do what you think tax lawyers do for the most part. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. That's probably a good thing. That means you haven't needed tax help or haven't sold a business or haven't been in trouble with the IRS. So anyway, I'll tell you a little bit about our firm. After the merger with Gibbons, and the reason I was in New Jersey is because Gibbons is a Newark, New Jersey-based firm. And so once we combined with Gibbons, we have about 800 lawyers coast to coast. So it's a bigger firm now than it was before. But anyway, that's basically who we are. From our legislative group, we do have a whole lot of individuals involved in legislation. One of my closest friends in the office is Bill Purcell. Bill Purcell works for us. I was not living in Nashville when Bill was mayor. And so I tell him I only know what was going on because when I would come back and visit my parents who were living here, I was paying attention to what was going on locally. But Bill is fascinating because from a local perspective, listening to Bill tell stories about Nashville and some of the things that they were doing. And I've asked him about the predators issue because I know that was a big issue during his administration, was where the predators going to move to Hamilton, Ontario. And so I've had many conversations with Bill about that. And it's just been fascinating because I thought from the outside that Bill was anti-Preds. And he's like, no, I absolutely was not anti-Preds. I was anti-bad deal with the Preds at the stadium. And so we were just trying to get a better deal. It was the Preds who were trying to paint me as being anti-Preds, not anti-Preds, pro-Nashville, pro-stadium. So we have a much better deal than what was initially negotiated. But Bill is part of our group. And again, from a local level perspective, and I think in the city of Brentwood, we have good local leadership. So it's just, again, good to see how that works together. All right. There are a couple of things that I do want to hit upon from this past session. We're about to go through an election cycle. So I don't think there was a whole lot that was terribly newsworthy during the regular session. When it became a bit more newsworthy is what happened in the special session. And so there was a Supreme Court decision that came down that basically dealt with gerrymandering and how you can gerrymander based upon race. Excuse me, not based upon race, you can do it based upon political. And so what happened was a lot of jurisdictions, Tennessee was one of them, called their General Assembly back into session to vote on new districts. And so this is what it looks like now. I'm going to step back for just a minute. If you guys can't hear me, let me know. So this is what it looks like as of May 7th. There's been litigation. Thanks, Linus. There's been, is it on? It's on, perfect. All right, litigation has been filed challenging this map, but this is what the General Assembly approved in their special session. So here's what the interesting issue is.
it's all focusing on basically Shelby County. And so what they did was something similar to what they did in Davidson County, which is here, and that was split it up into 3 different districts. The whole point, and the Republicans were clear about this, was to basically take all of the congressional districts in the state of Tennessee and basically make them Republican majority districts. So that's what they did. And so you can see this is Shelby County blown up. And so right now, depending upon where you live in Williamson County, this is not quite I-65, but basically if you live on the western side of Williamson County, this is your district and you're picking up, that's Clarksville. Then you're coming all the way over, you've got the farming communities of Northwest Tennessee, all the way down to basically downtown, almost downtown Memphis. I think that, in fact, that should be downtown Memphis here. So that's your district. If you're on the east side of Williamson County, you come down to the Alabama border, you come across, and then you're getting the very bottom part of Shelby County. And then if you're basically, I think this is probably going to get Jackson, and then eastern part of Shelby County. So that's what the map looks like. That's probably the most newsworthy thing that came out of the last General Assembly session, even though this came out of the special session. So anybody have any questions? I mean, this is probably something you guys have heard about a fair amount of news. So anyway, I would say stay tuned. My sense is it's probably not going to change. Yes.
I have a question. Now that I'm in the same congressional district as Beale Street.
Yes.
Do I get like drink specials?
I would say talk to your congressman, whoever that ends up being in the fall.
I am curious to find out what our shared legislative B and Beale Street.
I think that's a fascinating. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is interesting about when you look at both of the Williamson County districts. Both of them end up having Memphis, and then I would argue we don't have similar interests typically. Yes. Yeah.
So we generally had Andy Ogles, excuse me, in our district. And on the day this was voted, our congressman changed, right? On the day that it voted, or is there an election?
This is going to be in the next cycle.
So today, Andy Ogles is currently my congressman?
This has not happened yet. This is what we're going to be voting on in the fall.
So our congressman changes after when?
This election, assuming this goes through, this is who you'll vote for in the fall.
Okay.
Unless somebody knows this better than I do, maybe some more political guidance. I mean, it's my understanding is wherever you live in this, assuming you're in Williamson County, wherever you live, this will be either you or that will be. And you're voting on that in the fall.
So Andy Ogles is still our guy based on.
I mean, whoever your current congressman is now has not changed. And that will not change until next year, January. All right, yes.
I think it's a broader question, not only about the map, but is there a way, because both Republicans and Democratic states have done similar things.
Yes.
Now,
yep.
Is there a way out from this, from a constitution perspective? Is there a clause like in any country I've lived?
Constitutionally, I mean, constitutionally, this is okay for the time being. Under current constitutional law, that's one of the things that ACLU is the group that is sued. I don't remember if they sued the governor, if they sued the state, but they have sued, say this is unconstitutional. I think they will probably lose. But until the Constitution, until the Supreme Court reaches a different conclusion, I think this is what you're going to be stuck with. Texas has done the same thing. California is doing the same thing. So the blue states are coming here. The blue states are. I mean, I personally, this is me just talking as a voter. I don't like any of this, to be honest with you, from any jurisdiction. I mean, my view, back to your point about Beale Street, I mean, all kidding aside, I don't think, and let's see, Andy Ogles, this is Andy Ogles. Is this Andy right here? Which one? Andy's five?
In the yellow.
So this is Andy?
Yeah.
All right, so there's no reason, you take Andy Ogles, there's no reason sitting in the 5th Congressional District. How does he balance or she balance the issues of downtown Memphis with a farmer up here in Northwest Tennessee with someone living here in suburban Nashville? I don't know how you juggle all of that in a representative government way.
because their interests are different, they do from a daily perspective is different. And so that's just me speaking as a voter. I'm like, I wish we had truly representative government. Yes, there's a question.
Clarify. The ACLU sued the governor, right? Is that how that came down?
The party was.
Yeah, but the governor, it was all his fault, but he really just approved the gerrymandering or whatever you want to call it.
He signs it into law.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the state of Tennessee voters vote on this. Is that correct? I mean,
I think
we never have a approval vote or.
This is through the General Assembly, so the only way you're voting on it is through your representatives. And it's been approved by the General Assembly.
I see.
The governor signs it into law. It's now the law, the land.
Okay.
Pending court prevention.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. Continuing on with politics for just a minute. These are some high points that we'll hit. I'll hit some of these in more detail in just a minute. I wanted to get to, let's see. There was a slide that I had about the governor. And I wanted to make sure I did not miss on that because that election is coming up. It's in the what's ahead a little bit later. Okay, let me hit a couple of other points real quick. On this was kind of a big thing. This came up in Governor Lee's State of the State address in January, I believe. That was Governor Lee's been on the record of saying that he's in favor of vouchers, and so we had a voucher program. If you've ever heard him speak about it, it's a very emotional and I would argue very authentic story that he tells about an individual, a young man that he was a mentor to, who was in a failing school, and it was, had we had a voucher program, he would have been able to attend a better school. And so that was the reason that Governor Lee was all about vouchers. And so that was the biggest issue that he had issues with even within his own party, getting Republican legislators to agree to the voucher program. And so this year, in his last State of the State, he wanted to make sure that there was expansion of that program. And so that's what happened here. And so the concern there is, are you basically just, the cynical side would say, through the voucher program, are you just simply making it easier for private schools to attract more students and get bigger and generate more revenue? I would say, arguably, maybe. I mean, to the extent you send, or anyone who goes to a private school, my guess is private school tuition is probably going up since the voucher program into existence, which would mean maybe that is truth in that argument. But this was one of his big initiatives here. Healthcare. Another big issue for Governor Lee has been wanting to have access to rural healthcare. And my in-laws live in a very rural part of the state, and I would tell you that is true. Because they come stay with me every other week to seek medical care here in Middle Tennessee, where they live. So having good access to good healthcare in rural Tennessee has been important. So this provision here about reforming the certificate of need, but to the extent any of you have or an HCA or CHS, you'll know all about CONs. And so what they've done here is to try to make it easier in rural Tennessee to basically bypass some of the more difficult stringent requirements to say, yes, we need these sort of things in rural America, or rural Tennessee specifically. So like the cardiac catheterizations, make sure that it's easier to have that sort of facility in rural Tennessee. So you don't have to go from where my in-laws live in Perry County, drive an hour and 45 minutes into Nashville. You can have something hopefully closer nearby, whether that's in Cornwall, Linden, something along those lines. But that's what that particular bill, that particular legislation was about. This is a big issue as well, which is affordable housing. So that's an issue that we have to deal with on a local level. The state also can help in terms of making it easier for affordable housing or more affordable housing coming to existence. Yes, sir.
Just back on your slide, certificate of need, this is kind of stated in the question. That's what's driving the possible sale of the Williams County Medical Center.
Is it really?
That law.
Really?
Yes.
we had the CEO here a couple of weeks ago, and that is exactly what's driving that. Because if they do away with those certificate of needs, and this isn't a rural county, I know people say it's not, but the competition will force them probably, out of the game. So there's some real impacts, not just in rural areas, but also, and he said specifically that law, and it's supposed to be by 2030. Is it going to do away with all the certificate of needs?
I did not think he was doing away with all of it. So
Yeah.
he said it was. He's going to know more about it than I do. I'm not a healthcare guy. So he said it's going to do away with all certificate of need.
I don't know. He didn't say that. I'm curious if he did say that was driving their decision to meet and talk about selling the hospital.
I mean, that's interesting. His point is, see, if it should be tailored more towards rural America or rural Tennessee in the sense, Williamson County, Murray County should, I would argue you still need this, I would think.
Because what it allows them to do is the procedures that don't make any money or lose money, because they make so much money, they have a steady revenue stream. They get paid for things like birth of babies,
right?
EMS, stuff like that, and loss, because they have protection for the certificate. If you take that away, and HCA since you come here, then drop that out.
That is, I would agree with that. That is true. So what will happen, I can see, and I can tell you what we've seen in other areas. So as the deal guy, what I see a lot of times is private equity will swoop in and get involved in what's private equity. So all the doc in a box, the urgent care, are not subject to the certificate of need. So if I want to go to an urgent care facility, that is very anti-competitive with physician practices. So I have lots of friends who are physicians who do not like doc in a box, the retail place, simply because it is taking away revenue from them. I'm probably no different than many of you. If I get sick, I'm going to urgent care before I go to a doctor, because if I call my doctor, I might not get in for 2 weeks. And I'm like, I just need something quick. So I think that if this is truly statewide, and I don't know the answer to that, if it's truly statewide, then that would be a problem or a way of medical. I can see that. All right, let me go and cover a few more things. Devin, you got to tell me how much time I have. What time am I supposed to be done? Before one. Before one? Okay, perfect. All right. There's some things at the end I want to talk about that were holdovers from 2024 that I think are interesting from a tax perspective. Let me see if there's anything here. I'll tell you this point here about notable areas, this nuclear. Tennessee is trying to get on the forefront of nuclear energy. So Tennessee is trying to adopt things, and I don't think it's necessarily tied to data centers. I just think it's tied to wanting alternative energy sources. But Tennessee is very much so dialed into nuclear energy. We're a leader, arguably, because of Oak Ridge in nuclear energy. So it's not surprising that we're trying to be an alternative energy leader in nuclear energy. So that's something to pay attention to with respect to what Tennessee is doing. But I will tell you, they are definitely leading on infrastructure. Let me skip through. All right, so I want to talk about the governor's race. So it's hard to, I pay attention to it to a degree, but you don't really know that there's a governor's race. At least I feel like I know that there's a governor's race. I don't see a lot of advertising on TV. There's some. I've seen some John Rose advertisements lately. I don't think I've seen any Marsha Blackburn advertisements, that many of late, but that will start picking up. Without looking at the screen, when's the primary? In August. We're sitting here, it's like 2 months away. And so who would have thought that, we're 2 months out, and it should be a contested Republican primary between John Rose and Marsha Blackburn, but there's still not a whole lot of activity in that space. So if you look at polling, and I don't know that either campaign's done a whole lot of polling, but the news that I'm hearing through kind of the back channel is that Marsha Blackburn is pretty far ahead at this point. I don't know that I've heard anything different than that. John Rose, we have a group that meets in our office. John Rose has been in speaking to the group. Marsha, I think, has been invited. I don't know that she's been in yet. Speak to the group. Lamar Alexander is probably enough coming in 2 weeks. He's got a book coming out, and so he's doing a little bit of a book speaking tour. So he's going to come in. and talk to people there. So anyway, I would say just pay attention. We're about to have a new governor. Okay, here's the 2024 provision that I want to talk about. This was something that was something I paid attention to as a tax guy, in the sense that I was surprised. I'm gonna take it back in time. So in Governor Lee's State of the State address in 2024, so January of 2024, we knew something was coming down the pike, when the governor speaks, the General Assembly has already started doing work. So the General Assembly comes in, I think it's on the first or second Monday, Tuesday in January. So the General Assembly had already been in session for, I think, a couple of weeks. Hearings had taken place. And one of the hearings, David Geragano, who is the commissioner of the Department of Revenue, and Jonathan Scrimetti, who is the Attorney General, had made, basically in a hearing, had made a presentation about, we're going to make a change to the Tennessee franchise and excise tax. And we're doing it for constitutional reasons. Kind of flew under the radar, and then we're like, oh, that's interesting. Governor Lee comes up, say 2 weeks later, does his State of the State. And so we were waiting to see what he was going to say about this change to the franchise and excise tax law that David Geragano and Attorney General Scrimetti had talked about in this committee hearing. He makes a comment about it in passing, and it's in the sense of, we want to make Tennessee a more competitive state. We're already trying to be competitive with other states, but we're going to be on more equal footing with states in our area that we basically compete with. And we're going to make changes to our franchise and excise tax so that we are more competitive. What he was talking about was the state of North Carolina. So North Carolina had made a change in their income tax law that applies to corporations and partnerships and S corps to make them more advantageous, is basically a big tax cut. We compete with North Carolina for big relocations of corporations and things like that. So Charlotte, Raleigh-Durham, we do compete with them. So Governor Lee, being a good economic development promoter for the state, was like, hey, we have to match them. Georgia had done something similar as well, another state we compete with. Here's what's interesting. Because there was enough chatter in the background about this change, some of the state tax publications were reaching out to practitioners in Tennessee saying, hey, what's going on? What's the issue here? It's all been kind of veiled about constitutionality and potential claims, potential litigation. And so one of the larger state publications had one of their writers watch Governor Lee's address. They watched the address. Then the senior writer called me and was like, hey, Governor Lee didn't say anything. No, he did. He did. Your person just missed it. And it was cloaked in the sense of being competitive. I said, this is what they're going to do. And so then legislation was pretty shortly thereafter introduced, making a pretty significant change to the franchise and excise tax. Not to get too tax technical with you, but we have, one is an income tax, one is basically a net worth type tax. And so the way the law used to be written was, you don't take into account liabilities. Now you can take into account liabilities, so my net worth. So if I have a bunch of property, but it's also heavily encumbered with debt, then my net worth's not that big. And so the tax is based upon, for this change in law, whole thing, not just the net worth, but the whole thing. Part of what they changed was to say it was going to be net worth. There was a law firm out of Philadelphia that said, we think this is unconstitutional, your non-net worth tax, because it prejudices. There were some other things in there. We think it prejudices companies that are not in Tennessee. And they had met with Scrimetti and said, we're going to sue in Geragano. The commissioner said, we're going to sue. And basically, we have a whole host of clients, not like a class action, but kind of like a class action. We have several clients that are prepared to sue the state of Tennessee, filing for refund claims for the past 7 years. And it's going to be millions of dollars. We won't file suit if you change the law and make it retroactive. So that's why Governor Lee said, we're going to change the law. And it was, shockingly, proactive for 3 years. So let's see. Let's see. All right, here's the big number at the time. At the time, this was pitched as $1.2 billion in refunds for the past 3 years. It's a big number. So now, once it's come out, this is what we're going to do because the legislation has been introduced. When Jared Gaino and Scrimetti go back and testify in front of the committees, it's like, hey, how are we going to pay for this? So the Democratic senators or legislatures were asking those very pointed questions of how are we paying for this? The answer was, we are fiscally well off enough to where we can absorb this and be fine. And the answer is really. The answer is it turned out to be true. The number ends up being $1.5 billion was asked for in a refund claim. So one of the slides that I didn't spend a whole lot of time on, but I talked a little bit about was there was a whole list of the items in the budget. What's interesting about that, if you're kind of listening to things coming out of the Capitol in January and February, when talking about Governor Lee's budget was, do we have enough money? Things are tight. The argument was things are tight because you just gave away $1.5 billion and it's estimated to cost you $400 million every year in perpetuity. That's why it's a problem. But one of the slides I threw up there talked about a rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is still $2.1 billion. So back to New Jersey. New Jersey doesn't have this. New Jersey can't do this. I was in New York last week too. New York can't. California can't do this. But we were able to do this and it was viewed as a good thing. I have lots of clients, whether they were out of state or in state, who filed refund claims and were thrilled to be able to get money back. So if, in my view, if this can help, even though it cost us $1.5 billion as a state, if this helps us be attractive to keep people here, keep companies here, or be attractive to companies coming in, then okay, smart move. And the question is, can we afford it? Apparently, thus far, the answer has been yes, we can afford it because we had the big refund claim and we paid it. So the answer, I think, is yes, we could afford it and we did afford it. So this is an example of something that took place to where, I mean, this does show executive leadership of Governor Lee, that he was taking pressure because we were asking people all the time, especially some of my legislative colleagues, saying, how is this getting through? Because Scrimetti, has Scrimetti ever come here to talk to you guys? Jonathan, Jonathan Esco? Okay. Jonathan Scrimetti and I used to work together years ago. He was in Memphis, was at a different law firm. And Jonathan is a super talented litigator and does not back down from anyone. I mean, you should have seen what he did in terms of suing, I think, the NCAA over some NIL issues. And then for Jonathan to back down and say, we're gonna fix this legislatively. I'm like, okay, there's something else here. And so we were trying to pick up on, hallway chatter as to what's really taking place here. And it came back to us that this was really Governor Lee who was pushing it. And I would still say Governor Lee made the right decision. We could afford it. We maintained our competitive place with respect to other states. And so I think it's to work out well. Yes. No, the rule does not sunset. Now the refunds are over. So to the extent that I want to go back in time for 3 years, that was a limited window. We had lots of clients that were running really fast. A lot of my accounting friends were very busy processing refund claims to do that. Now the state did do a nice job of trying to streamline and automate the refund process, but the refunds are over. It is only going forward. All right, here's the next question for you. So let's talk about New Jersey. We'll make them our whipping boy for the moment. Okay, states can't run deficits. Federal government can run a deficit all day long. States can't run deficits. Do you see a world in which states like New Jersey, California, Illinois, that habitually are struggling from a revenue perspective, whether it's because companies are leaving, people are leaving, they just don't have the tax base anymore. So do you ever see a world in which states like Tennessee are going to be on the hook for states like New Jersey, for California, to where at some point
the federal government says, hey, I know we've got this whole republic idea and each state, states are separate, but we're going to have to be in this a little bit more than we are. So I hope we don't see that time period, but I would just say that's something that if you asked me in 30 years, would that shock me? But as fast as things are moving with AI, lots of things don't shock me anymore. So would it shock me if in 30 years we have a scenario to where there's maybe a little bit more sharing and it's not each state for themselves? Possibly, but I certainly hope that's not the case. So anyway. All right, 3 minutes. All right, does anybody have any questions? That was it. I just wanted to cover that real quick. Yes.
So you said on this franchise and excise tax
Yes.
that New Jersey, California, they can't do it. Is it because they don't have the funds in their rainy day fund?
They can't
Or-
cut taxes. So yeah, they're in a situation to where they need every dollar of tax they can get. I would say pay attention to what's going on in New York. Specifically, I would say look at the city. New York City is struggling from a revenue perspective, even though when I was in New York this week, it's like New York is back. It's a fun place to go, but I think that they're struggling from a fiscal perspective. And so they're trying to increase it. So I think the thing that Manami put out lately was some sort of income tax on either millionaires at a certain level. So trying to raise city level income tax, not state level income tax. And there may be a push, California's had a push on home sales. So if you have home sales over a certain price, you're in these California customers, you got home sales over a certain price, and I think maybe LA County, there's an additional tax. So I think they're going to be raising. My point was they can't cut tax. So you can't go to the governor and say, hey, we have a threat of impending litigation. We need to cut tax in order to maintain competitive stand. They can't do that.
Okay. And then one other thing is you had kind of left it hanging on in 30 years, could we potentially put the bill for some of these states that are mismanaged, shall
Yeah,
we
that's
say?
that's the next level concern that
So then from a legal perspective, does that infringe upon states' rights?
Yes, it does. And that's why I think that's a constitutional issue. Yeah, it does. So it's not something I'm worried. I mean, I don't think I'm worried about it even in my life, but I would just say it's something that I would just say pay attention, because you can't have states just not be able, can't have New Jersey, Illinois, I mean, pick on them. Just go to a situation where they can't provide essential services anymore because they don't have tax. Last question. Anybody? All right. Okay.
Sure. All right. Good for you.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you to our speaker. I'll pull this right back down to account for the size difference. Oh, cut that out. I heard that. I heard that. All right, moving right along. Thank you to our guest. Sean, thank you for coming. Chuck snuck out of here, but thank you for Chuck coming as well. And Brian, thank you for joining us today again and speaking with us and sharing the legislative update. If there's anything else, let us know right now. Otherwise, stacks of 8 chairs, not up against the wall. And then next week is our annual scholarship program. So we have some recipients that we want to share with you, and then also some updates from past recipients. I think visually will be coming as well. So if there's nothing else for the Good Rotary.